But in this context, I wanted to throw a hammer at his face. Hey guys, welcome back to Down Once More Pod with Matt and Rayleigh. This is going to be our special holiday Christmas. Oh, sorry, no, holiday, because we don't say Christmas. Christmas is like
Well, I mean,
not
the
allowed.
things we're discussing both have Christmas as main themes.
We just say holiday. Okay, don't say the word.
Holiday.
Don't say the C word. Don't say Christmas. We're going to talk about some holiday things because we did this last year and it was extra fun to do a little seasonal holiday episode. And so we will round out the year with our December movie musical review with another special Christmas themed episode.
Holiday.
Oh shit!
You literally just said that, and then you already fucked it up. This is why some people struggle with pronouns. You just can't put things
The liberals
in your head.
are going to murder us because I keep saying the C word. Okay.
I think
Holidays.
That's just called suicide. See, the liberals murdering us, and then that'd be us murdering ourselves.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. See that I'm like reverse being, I'm mocking reverse. Like it's like I'm two-sided sarcasm here. I'm making fun of the people making fun of the people who are me.
We're doing deeply layered jokes.
So confusing.
It's also just
whose
because
side am I even on?
Like it's almost 2 a.m. for me. It's almost 3 a.m. for Rayleigh. There's a theme in these episodes. If you watch, that's when our recordings happen. Because life is a thing after that exists for everyone. Sorry. I'm trying
to make us way more entertaining.
Going off camera.
Whatever.
I mean, that's probably to be determined. But to us, it makes us a lot more entertaining. To you guys,
we're the only ones that matter.
But we enjoy ourselves.
Anywho, here's our holiday episode. And this month we are reviewing The Grinch Musical, which we have much to say about. This musical is on Peacock. If you haven't seen it, go and watch it so that you will appreciate our review even more. And then I think at the end we have some notes on a special little YouTube musical that was put on by StarKid, and it's called a VHS Christmas Carol. So it is a Christmas Carol, but StarKid style, and we'll get into that. And I think we've got a few little like things to say about that. But first, we want to talk about the Grinch because that's going to be our main topic here. The Grinch is a Broadway show set to be filmed. So this is like a movie version of a Broadway, and it is very interesting how they did that. The guy who plays the Grinch is the guy from Glee. If you've seen that show, he is the teacher, Mr. Shoe. He is the Grinch. He's the one that plays the Grinch, and then we have the narrator is old Max, who's supposed to be the Grinch's dog. Many years later, played by Dennis O'Hare, who, if you are like me, obsessed with True Blood, you will know him as the King of Mississippi. The Vampire King of Mississippi. Yes. So that's that, and we're going to talk about that. And I think Matt has some facts that he wants to share with us about the Grinch before we get started talking about the actual show. But yeah, it's on Peacock. So did I say that already? Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, go watch it on Peacock. Matt, tell us about the Grinch musical.
Well, I don't have a ton of fun stuff, and what I have comes from the wonderful world of Wikipedia, which heads up anyone that's looking to Wikipedia things. They are currently doing their page-long pop-ups about please give us money on every page currently. There is not much on this one. It's pretty brief. So the first I'd heard about this musical was when I went to go see Wicked. This older couple that was sitting next to us, they said they had season tickets, and they said they were actually surprised. One of their favorite ones that they'd seen recently was the Grinch musical, and it was so much fun. And I'm like, oh, interesting. And I knew it was on here. By here I mean Peacock. And so I'm like, we should do that for our holiday episode here, December review, get in the spirit. But so this was filmed. It was one of those, that trend that everyone started doing the live versions of musicals where they'd film it and they did it, and most of them are god awful. Grease wasn't terrible with Julianne Hough and Aaron Fiat and Vanessa Hudgens. This was on NBC as well. It came out during 2020. So originally there was supposed to be a live audience, but then COVID was a thing that happened, COVID restrictions. So there's not. And some of that's very glaring and telling during this. So it came out December 9th, 2020. And then, so it's an adaptation. It was turned in, the Broadway musical came out in 2006. But according to Wikipedia, there was also like a limited run of it in 1998 in San Diego, where Vanessa Hudgens played Cindy Lou Who. But then there were like no other details on that. So who fucking knows? Someone could just be trolling on Wikipedia, and that's why they need money to vet that shit. But the musical came out Broadway in 2006. It's had a few runs there. It's doing some tours currently. Like it was in my town last year, but it was only here like Christmas Eve and like the 23rd and 24th of December. And I'm like, I'm traveling then. I'm not going to see The Grinch. That was not on my list of things to do. I'm not like, oh, I have to stay in town to see The Grinch. But that's the only history I really have of this, except their cost. There's so much about this. I said after Chicago that I thought Chicago was my least favorite movie that we had reviewed on here. That did not last long. I hated this so much.
I knew
This
you
is
would.
one of the worst things in my opinion, I have ever it's only like an hour and 20 minutes long. It felt like it was 5 hours to me. I'm watching this. I'm like, what is happening right now? The narrator of Max was like so cringy and weird to me and awkward. And then the young Max, played by Boo Boo Stewart, who I know him from the far superior musical movie American Satan, where he plays in a band that they sign a deal with the devil and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's a lot more fun than the Grinch musical. So it was really weird to see him in this weird ass dog costume going constantly. But yeah, that's my initial thoughts, is that I struggled to get through this thing. What are your thoughts, Rayleigh?
So I had thoughts for the first half. And I will be honest with you. I watched the first half. Okay, I went into this before I knew anything about it, before I watched anything about it. Matt sends me a text like the day that I'm going to watch it. And he's like, buckle up. And I'm like, Jesus, what the fuck am I getting myself into? So my mind immediately goes, I know Matt, I should not watch this in front of my child. That's what my thought was like, this is going to be like really like gnarly,
Those could
nasty,
be like
cursing,
raunchy.
like, yes, that's what I assumed. I was like, man, what is, so I was like,
Dude,
I
that
need
would
to
have
wait
made
till my
this
child
so
goes to
much
bed
better.
to watch this. So he goes to bed and I start to watch it. And I made it through the first half. And granted, this was at like 1 a.m. So I was watching it and I was like, I made it through the first half. And when I realized this is a kid's show, this is family friendly, Matt told me to buckle up for a different reason. Then I stopped it halfway through because I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. I can't. So if I'm gonna have to sit through this, I might as well sit through this with someone who will actually enjoy it, my 4-year-old.
That's fair.
And so I
I
waited
should
until
have
the
been
next
clear.
day and I watched the second half. No, I'm glad that you said buckle up, and I'm glad you didn't tell me anything about it because I didn't want to go into it with any expectations. So I watched the second half of it with my 4-year-old.
Mhm.
Him aside, my child aside, the first half for me made me feel all kinds of ick. So much ick.
It's cringe
Ick all
so
through.
much.
And then the second half, it got better for me. And it wasn't because of my child, although that did help. But it wasn't because of him. It got better. Because I think what they did, this is my theory, I think is that they just had to fill space. If you go back and watch the original Grinch Stole Christmas, it's 30 minutes. It's a
Yeah.
cartoon, and it is
Yeah.
over
Short as
like that
shit.
because the story is super fucking short. And the same thing they did with the Jim Carrey movie. They had to put in like stories from the families and the
Mm-hmm.
other side plot lines and stuff. I had to fill the space. But in the first half, you feel every minute of them filling the space. They repeat themselves so many times. It's almost like no, not almost. It is the same song. Each song that they sing is sung twice. It's sung by the Grinch and then it's sung by the Who's, or it's sung by the Who's and then it's sung by the Grinch. And they actually repeat the same shit over and over and over again. And the entire first half is just the Grinch hates Christmas. That's it. That's all you learn in the first half of this show. So by the time it was halfway over, I was like, oh my God, what the fuck? This is fucking terrible. And when Dennis O'Hare showed up, I was like, I love him. He's from True Blood. I love him. He's a great actor in that. I mean, he's really cheesy, but it's a cheesy show. So, like, you're expecting that. You know, he's a vampire, so he's very vampire-y, and he's Mississippian, so he's very Mississippian. You get that. But then he shows up as this dog, and his lines are just like,
so cringy. At one point,
and his acting is so bad too. That's what made me mad. I was like, "You're a good actor." The
and
writing
he's sweating like a
actor.
motherfucker. He's sweating
because he's
so
in a
bad.
full body fur.
Yeah, those costumes were rough. But yeah, the dialogue, like you said, at one point after, I think it's like after the first song, then he comes back, he's like, ruff, 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 and he's like, I'm sorry, English.
Oh, sorry.
And I'm like,
English.
What the fuck are we doing
at
here?
That point. Nope.
This is
nope.
ridiculous. And I will acknowledge, this is not a musical or movie for me. Like, I am not the target audience.
You're
this
the
is
wrong
definitely
demographic.
For kids.
Yes.
Like, this is
we are the wrong demographic. It's just for children. And I could see how going to it live with a child, with an auditorium full of children, I could see how that would be like, oh my gosh, aw.
Going to anything with an auditorium full of children is my nightmare.
Okay, fine. Touche. Too fucking shay. But let me say this, though. Let me say that all the bad acting and all the bad writing and all the blah, blah, blah and the over the top and the cringy shit, I have to say the set, the costumes, they're over the top, but they are so good for this. Like, the set's amazing. The set looked like I felt like I was in Seuss land. It was
like a comic book,
perfect.
or drawn. It was perfect. I love the set.
There was money put into it. You could tell that they had like money put into that set. It was done so well. I felt like I was in the middle of the story, like really in the Grinch's cave and in Whoville, and like the drawn things that looked like Seuss's drawings. Oh yeah, it was perfect. And all the Who's had great costumes. They're bright pinks and they're like oranges, and they had good choreography. I thought the little kids were really good. They have excellent little children singers and actors in it.
None of them had fake noses, though. No, all the adults had fake noses. None of the children had fake noses.
Yeah, but they're Who's. They're supposed to have, like,
it's fair. But
it's what they're supposed to look like. But the point is that they spent a lot of money on the set. They spent a lot of money on the costumes. They spent a lot of money on getting actors who could really sing. These are like Broadway level actors and singers. Why is the writing so bad? Why is it acted to a point where you can barely watch it? I got so turned off by the Grinch's the way he was acting. I really like Glee, but I think that guy's not the greatest actor. I don't think that he's my favorite person ever. So I always felt like he was overacting in anything I see him in. And I think the costume for him, the makeup is amazing. Yes, that's fact. Makeup's amazing. He looks great as a Grinch. The costume's awesome. It was perfect. But it was the way he was delivering his... Oh, no.
I couldn't tell if he was trying to, like, mimic Jim Carrey or what, but it was again. He does not have any of that charisma or anything. Mm-hmm. Like, it was rough.
It was like they stole some of the Grinch's characteristics from Jim Carrey and put them into this. And it's like, that's not how it's supposed to be. Well, Jim Carrey was an adaptation of the Grinch. You should make your own adaptation of the Grinch. Don't make an adaptation of the adaptation of the Grinch. Don't do that.
Right. Because in the original, the Grinch doesn't talk at all. Like,
right, yeah, and he certainly doesn't go, ooh,
yeah,
like, yeah, it was bad. The first half was really, 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 really bad for me. The second half, it got better for me. It got better.
The second half
But oh my
somewhat
god,
better, but
maybe just because
the
there's more
first,
things happening.
yeah, the first half, and like you said with the writing, it's like they're trying to imitate Seuss, but very poorly. Like because they're doing the rhyming everything constantly, of course, and trying to do
Yeah,
that, but it's just it's not
it was forced. It
clever.
was really
It doesn't
forced.
always like it just seems forced. Yeah, and it was rough for me. Like I struggled. I tried to get and my wife because I'm like I need to watch this week if you want to because some she bugs me about watching Christmas movies sometimes and she likes the good Jim Carrey Grinch.
Yeah.
Like this isn't the same thing. Let's watch it. She tapped out like 10 minutes in. She's like, "Yeah, I
Nope.
can't do this." I'm like, "That's fair. I get that. I respect that."
The opening
um,
is really
uh,
bad. Like they don't
it's
do
bad.
enough to get you in at the opening. Like the
The
who loves Christmas?
I
Who's up
hated that
Christmas? That
song.
whole fucking thing was just
Like,
so
yeah.
fucking awful. And it was
Mm.
like y'all are just you're turning us off immediately. Why?
My
And it goes
my
on
note
and on
says
and on and fucking on.
Um, my note says maybe it's because I'm basically the Grinch, but I hated the "Who Likes Christmas" opening song so much.
Yeah, it was
I
bad.
hated it. I
It was the worst song, and they started with that, which is the worst idea because then you've just basically set the tone for us to hate this. I think that the kids in the show made up for it for me. Like,
the
no,
kids were
no, no,
better
no.
than
Let
most of the
me let
adults.
me reverse that. They don't make up for it. They made it
Scratch that. Reverse that.
palatable at times, but they they were better than the adults. They were
Yeah,
the Cindy Lou Who character, the actress that did it. She probably wasn't more
she
than
did really good.
12. She was way better than the Grinch, and he's a
Oh
famous,
yeah,
well-known singer actor who has an Emmy nomination, or maybe even an Emmy itself, for the show. And he was so over the. Oh, but Cindy
it
Lou was
was
great.
rough.
I thought she was so cute, and I just
I
like wanted
agree.
more of her. And I
She
don't
was
usually like
definitely
kids that act.
she was definitely the standout to me, really. And her
Yeah,
mom was decent.
yeah.
Too, but like you said, the Grinch. There's one point in this where it's before the Grinch goes and puts his whole plan into effect, where he goes down to Whoville and he goes into the store to try to get some
Mm-hmm.
things, and he puts on a basically cowboy hat. Of course, everything's all green. And he
Is
walks
it a
in there, and at
cowboy
one point
hat?
he's like, "I'm from Houston, USA," and he does an awful accent, and it was
It's
so
really bad.
like I wanted to just crawl out of my skin with that. I'm like, I just don't want to be
Yeah,
here. And like I said, I get this is
yeah,
more targeted for kids. I'm sure kids love it.
yeah.
Like also like during the Mean One Mr. Grinch song, he chugs some
Mm-hmm.
milk and then he farts. And both versions of Max are there and they like fall on their back and legs up because it's narrated by old Max, but then there's also young Max that's in there with Grinch and the friend.
With the Grinch
And it
doing
was
all the
just
things.
I'm
Yeah,
like this is I
it's
mean,
for kids,
sometimes farts can be funny.
but not in a
That
cute
was not
way.
a funny fart situation right there.
No,
Like
and
that,
it
I'm
was
like,
just
what
randomly
are we
placed. It wasn't like
doing?
he did any. He didn't do anything like that in any of the other part of the shows. It just that was so
No,
randomly put in there.
it was the
I was
only
like, why?
yeah, it was the only toilet humor like type
Right.
stuff, and I'm like, it didn't fit. It was jarring. It was weird. I'm like, we're doing lactose intolerant Grinch fart jokes. I've only seen the Jim Carrey Grinch like once or twice because I didn't grow up on that one. Um, And so I don't know
I,
that I
I
could
like
see
Jim
some of
Carrey
that type of
though.
humor in there just because of how Jim Carrey is, but maybe not. Like I don't remember it
I
well enough.
honestly
So I
think
don't know if
it
that's where they're
it
pulling it.
truly felt like to me they were like Jim Carrey did such a good Grinch. We should make our Grinch like Jim Carrey's Grinch. And
When
they
did
did
that
it,
one
but they
come out?
didn't do it well. And let me tell you also, the fact that there was no audience makes it so awkward at times because look, these actors are trained to pause for applause at the ends of their
Yeah.
songs, right? It's part of the show. So you do a big song and then you're just like standing there pausing for effect. And normally, if you're watching a live show or you're at a live show, that's where people applaud and scream, "Yeah, woo, good job, you sang that song." It's silent because there's no audience. You feel like you're the only one in an empty theater, and they're also singing to the
So,
camera at times. It
so
was
rough.
really fucking awkward. And and also they do this, I guess it was probably on TV the first time they
Yeah.
played it,
It was
because
on
they do these
NBC.
interludes
Yeah, it was
where
on
they have like
NBC.
a, it's like a commercial break interlude, right? So like when you're going to commercial, you get this weird like paper pop-up of the Grinch musical, and then it goes down, and
So
then because
stupid.
there's no commercials, it's on Peacock, it pops back up again, and then you go right back into the story. For me, those moments were like, oh,
Jarring.
I could almost feel the pain of the actor trying to perform to an empty theater, and it made me hurt on my insides. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like I'm supposed to applaud for you because nobody else is. And even though I hate this and I don't want to applaud for you, and I'm in my own home on my own couch,
I'm a
I
courteous
feel
person.
awkward for you. Yeah,
When he does the
don't make me
Grinch
feel
does
like that.
the fourth wall break earlier, but he's like, you, and
Yeah,
he's talking to him like his first intro. I think it's his first introduction. He's like, I hate your couch. I'm like, what the fuck are we doing here? And then he just
stop
goes back
that.
to normal.
Stop.
Like, I'm like, what? Less of
Because you know
this,
they didn't do
please.
that in the
Less of it.
actual show. You
No,
put that in
no.
just for the movie version, which makes me feel like, why? Just give me the show. Just give me the actual show.
Yeah,
Max as a narrator makes me want to throw up. Like,
I hated that. It was
I
so unnecessary, and I didn't know
hate
why they
it.
were doing it. I had a note. I said I'm not sure if old Max was more disturbing and unsettling, or if young Max was more unsettling and annoying. Like I couldn't decide which
He
version of
was
Max
annoying,
I hated
yes.
the most
For
in
me,
this
it's like
production
not
because
even.
they
It's
give him.
hands down old Max.
I'm pretty sure those are prosthetic jowls on him too.
Yes,
Like I don't think those were
yes.
his actual ones. I'm not as
Those
familiar
were
with
not his face
him, but like those prosthetic jowls
and his
are
face.
rough, and just everything else, and the suit. And also,
Ugh.
there were two younger versions of Max when he's telling a story of him growing up. They're both played by females, which I thought was interesting. But then their costumes were shit. Like the other ones had full costumes, but theirs were just like the ear flap hats that you wear in the winter for their like ears, hair. It was just so weird. Like it was unnecessary. It did that whole
Why do we
number where he's
need
talking was
Max's
so stupid.
backstory? Why do we need
I
Max's backstory? But
I will
if you're
never
gonna give me a
watch this
Max's
again.
backstory, if you're gonna give me Max's backstory, give me his story. Don't give me a 30-second baby Max, a 1 minute teenage Max, and then the rest of the show is
Young
the young
Max.
Max and I'm the old Max. Don't do that to me because I don't need that. I want you to move the story forward. But again, I feel like they were filling in
It's
space.
rough.
I think they were like, we need this show to
I
be
think
an
you're right.
hour at least. Let's put in some shit that doesn't fucking matter to fill in the gaps because the story is short and there's not really that much to it.
I
And it's the
would be
Grinch.
curious
It's
to
supposed to
see it.
be a fucking cute story.
Yeah, I would be
And maybe
curious to
and
see it
maybe
live
like
and see if maybe it translates differently. Like I couldn't find anything. Like I don't know if certain songs were cut, or like I don't know if this is the whole thing or not. Because,
again,
like you said, the story of the Grinch is a short one that then got added more filler to make the Jim Carrey one. Then this one gets
yeah.
added more to it as well, and so but an hour and 20. That was a weird, like yawn, hiccup, weird. I don't know what the fuck that was. But an hour and 20 minutes is extremely short for a musical in general. I don't know
Yeah.
if I've ever been to a musical that's under 2 hours. Like
Yeah, even
so I
with
don't
the
know
intermission
what's
in the
going
middle
on.
of it, it should be it like your story should be at least an hour and a half.
Right.
The story. That's why making a musical out of something like The Grinch, you're either going to have to go full on like the Jim Carrey where he has the entire life story of the Grinch where you get
Mm-hmm.
his whole background, and if you're not going to do that, then
Where
your
there's the
story is going to be
swingers
this short.
party. Yeah, this was missing a swingers party.
Right. We
That's
didn't
what
have the
was
swingers
missing in
party.
this.
We didn't have
No
young
key
Grinch
party.
cutting his face with a razor because he was
Razor.
too hairy when he was like 5 years old. We didn't have
Yeah.
any of those like charming, endearing "We love the Grinch" moments. We didn't have the old biddies that like adopted him and like loved him. You didn't
I
have any of that, and I waited for those moments because they don't give you any reason to feel sorry for the Grinch. You just feel sickened by his overacting and his like.
It was so rough.
It was, you know what? I just felt like it was like a poor man's version, a poor man's Jim Carrey's Grinch.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. And
Yeah.
there was one song in there that I did kind of like, and it was the
Where
One of a
are you,
Kind.
Christmas?
Well,
Oh,
that also, again, from the Jim
I like
Carrey
that
one,
one.
not a song
Yeah,
from the
it is from
original. They stole that from the Grinch from the Jim Carrey version. The
correct.
his One of a Kind, I actually thought was decent. That was the only song in there that I was like, okay. And I do love "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch." I love
Yeah,
that
that's a
song. So
classic.
when they put that in there, I was happy. I don't
But
think
then
that
there was a
his
fart, and it
acting was
ruined
that
it.
great. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think that he did a great job of it, but I love that song. And I'm not sure that Dennis O'Hare was a good choice for old Max. He's not a great singer. He's kind of
Oh.
just like there.
I
And
feel
he's one
like
of
he
those
more
actors that if
spoke
he
his
doesn't,
lines. He didn't sing
he
a ton.
did.
He was more like
He did.
speaking
He
them, wasn't
sang
he?
some though, because I was listening for it because I didn't know he could sing beforehand. I
Hmm.
was like listening for it, and I was like, oh, okay, so he does have a voice. He just doesn't have an amazing voice. He doesn't. He certainly doesn't have a Broadway voice.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was a misplaced uh, actor. He felt out of place, so out of place in that.
The whole
But
thing was for
the
me.
makeup on the Grinch, the makeup on the Who's, the costumes, and the set, for me, those were the shining moments that I thought they did a good job. And there were some
Yeah.
effects too. I feel like they had some, not effects, but like they did a good job of making it on stage, make
Yeah.
it look like when he's on the
They did a
sled
good
and
job
he's
with
like
things.
cracking the
Yeah.
whip with Max, and there's
Yep.
you can see it looks like there's wind blowing, there's like lights behind him, and he's like going down a hill. It really looked like, okay, you're on stage, but that
Yeah.
looks cool.
Yeah, they did it
Good
really
job.
well.
They did some like throwing the snow in the air, so it really looks like it's snowing. I felt like there were moments. I don't understand the two random people in the
Right.
jumpsuits that did the
That's what I was
things.
wondering.
There was a
One's a
small
little
person. I think they're
person.
called a
One's
little person.
yeah. Yeah.
And then there's a random, and they're both in weird jumpsuits
I
that don't match the Who's, but they also
I
just
didn't
don't.
know
They don't look
either.
like set people.
I'm
I'm
like,
like,
what is
and they were
happening?
just they were like walking props is what
They're
they were. They were just like walking
rollerblading at
or
one
like
point with them too.
right. And then they have these weird like things that they play like horns, and they were the ones throwing snow at people. It was
It was
very odd.
interesting.
But they were also in the Who song. So what
Yeah.
confused me was that they were in the Who Likes Christmas? Who likes Christmas? They were there. So I was like, are those Who's? Why are they dressed like mechanics? Like
Dude,
what
it was
why
I
do they look like why did they look like the mechanic that ran away from Jiffy Lube
it
earlier
was
this morning? Like,
it
why is
was
he dressed like
bad.
that? It was
I
bad.
They felt like escaped
It
Oompa
was bad.
Loompas to me. And maybe
Hmm.
that's just because one was a little person. And they were
I
wearing
think that's why
jumpsuits, like
I
they're
think
wearing
that's why you
matching
made that connection.
outfits. And they were singing and doing weird stuff. But
It's
I
so
forget what the
weird.
name of the song was because I didn't care and I didn't look it up. But after I think it's after the Grinch sings the song that you said you liked, but that he sings one with the kids doing things where these kids are being terrorists, like basically why he doesn't like kids in Christmas. They're
Oh
bouncing on
yeah,
things at one point, opening
the
presents or whatever.
whatchamacallits, the Huma Watch It's or whatever it was.
I don't know. But the note that I had
Huma
there, I had two
things.
notes. I had the kids being demon children in this one song seems fitting. And then I had, I think the sound of children singing in unison might be my personal hell. Um, I was struggling
They
with
were
that.
really
And then
annoying.
also, I felt like there's the part in the store where the kid's talking about getting money, and they're like, or I think it was the dad that says it, that says, let's sell grandpa. And I'm like, I don't think you can say that about one of the two black people in this show that let's sell them. I think that is probably frowned
That
upon.
was poor
Um,
choice. Poor choice.
Poor planning. Poor planning. I also hated that they threw the line in there with the Grinch that I feel like was added for this show where he's like, where he's talking about growing up, and he says, I kept my social distance before it was cool. Like,
Yeah.
this came out during COVID. I'm like, I know you threw that line. Like, that
That was
wasn't part of
a
the 2006 Broadway. It is just cringy. Like, stuff like that was cringy to
yeah.
me. I think we're going to go back
Oh.
and like the 2020 humor, with the exception of Bo Burnham's Inside. Bo Burnham's
Oh.
Inside is a masterpiece,
Oh no,
and
he's
I will
fucking
not
amazing.
hear otherwise. But
He's the greatest.
yeah, I don't.
But no, and there was a moment too when he was like, what was it? Oh, when he kept coming back on stage and be like, thank you," and he'd walk off and be like,
I
thank
oh,
you
they're so
again. And
cringy.
I was like, you don't have an audience, so this you're doing this feels so fucking awful. Like, what if you haven't seen it? He goes off stage. The Grinch goes off stage after singing, and then he comes, and then like old Max starts talking, delivering his line, whatever it is, and the Grinch comes running back on and like doing like a thank you so much, thank you, which I can see that if
So
it's a
many
live show,
times.
as an audience member, you catch on pretty quickly, so you cheer again, like yeah, 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 which would make sense, right? You'd be like, thank you again. Oh, you're a wonderful audience, blah blah blah. And then he leaves again, and then old Max starts talking, and he comes back out, thank you, thank you. So if you're an audience member, you go, oh yeah, cheer, cheer, cheer. I get that, but in this context, I wanted to throw a hammer at his face. Like, it
Oh,
didn't feel like just
and it
stop.
was
Just
it would have been one thing if he would have done it once. I probably wouldn't have cared, but it was like 3 or 4
four times.
times, and I'm like, get
Stop it!
the
Stop
fuck out of here with that.
it! Stop it!
Like, no, thank you. Um, I don't really have any other notes on this. I'm just saying.
Let me
I
see
mean,
if
I
I
have
do.
some other ones, but none of them. Oh, I said I was actually disappointed. I think was One of a Kind the one you said you liked.
That was the one
Um,
the only one where I was like, oh, this is, and the one where he's singing with the kid when he's singing with Cindy Lou. I don't
oh,
remember what it was,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
she was cute, so she made
Yeah.
up for his badness in that song. But those are the only two,
Th-
and obviously Grinch, you're a mean one. Those are
right.
the only ones that I really
Eh,
liked.
there were parts in One of a Kind that I felt like they were written, and the lines for someone with a more powerful voice to deliver them and kind of take off with them. And I
Right.
felt like Matthew Morrison just did not have, I don't know if it was that range or that capability, because there were some lines in there that just kind of fell flat for me. That I'm like, I feel like this
Yeah.
was set up to be
It
more
was
of a,
meant to
like,
be a
have more of a
yeah,
punch to it, and it just didn't. And
right.
I don't
Can you
know.
imagine if you have like
I
a
struggle with
phantom
this.
level Broadway singer singing something like
Well,
that? It could be like touching or be like, wow, that was an amazing performance. And he's like,
and that's part
meh.
and that's part of what this was different. But like when Rent did their live version on Fox,
Mm-hmm.
there were a couple issues with that. One was that it's not a Rent is not a network television show. Like, they censored it and kind of dummied it down some more. And
Right.
two, the guy who played Roger like broke his foot during the first night, so what they aired for their live one was their like, they recorded their rehearsal like the night before, so everyone's not giving
Oh.
100%. And that's what some of these
Mm.
parts of this seemed like.
Yeah.
Not many of them. Most of it was pretty solid. But just in that one song, there were parts where Matthew Morrison, I'm like, I feel like I don't know if he's holding back or if it's just he doesn't have the capability to hit certain notes, that it just,
It probably feels
I,
fucking weird to perform to an empty theater and try to
you're
make
probably
it
hot
into
as
to
fuck
like,
too
oh, I kept thinking about that.
in
Him
that
and Max
costume.
too. And I was like, my God, they must be just dying. He's
So bad.
in like a full body, thick ass, furry Grinch costume, and his face is just the caked on, like green, thick makeup that doesn't come off when he drinks
No.
real fucking milk on stage and it washes over his face. It didn't even streak or anything. So I was like, God, that shit is like 3 inches thick. I felt the heat
It's
for
rough.
him, and it's not, it's, yeah, it's rough. It's rough to get through. But you know what? I will say that for the second half, my kid watched with me and he loves The Grinch. He loved it. He thought it was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Well, that's
And he
good.
knows the
And
story of The
he's
Grinch,
the
so he
more the
knew.
target
But the
audience.
second half is the story. The first half was
It's
just a
true.
fucking
Bullshit.
repetitive, awful songs that nobody
Who
cares
loved
about and wants to hear.
Christmas?
And the one where the kids are bouncing on the ball, going like, "We're annoying as fuck. We're annoying as fuck. We're annoying as fuck. We're annoying as fuck." All of that happens in the first
Let's
half.
write that
Jesus
musical
Christ, we're annoying as fuck.
where
We're
they're
annoying
just
as fuck.
saying
We're annoying as fuck.
we're annoying as fuck. Let's do that. Let's write the most offensive
Sold.
musical. There's probably more offensive musicals,
I think there's
but
more offensive than that. But
let's
yes,
write
let's
the
do
most
that.
strongly worded musical. Uh,
I'm so down.
yeah,
So down.
that's my vote.
That's all I got on the Grinch too.
Yeah,
Basically, I will watch it again if I have to sit through it with my kid. If he requests it, we'll
okay.
watch it. But if I don't have to, I won't go back and watch this one. It was awkward as fuck
Having
for
no
me.
children,
It was
I
cringe.
I will not watch this again. I would have to be so hard pressed. There would need to be immense rewards on the other side of it of some kind for me to watch this again. It
Yeah,
was, I struggled.
brutal.
Like I said, this was the one that I struggled with most for this podcast. And this is like, we're almost into 2 years of doing this now. Like with
Yeah.
this being December, like we're going into calendar year 3 because we started in 2022. We're going into calendar year 3 of this, and this was the one I just
This is the
Jackson
worst
just
one
straight
so
up
far.
not having a good time. This was the worst one by far. I
Yeah,
will not be
I can
watching this again
understand that. I can understand
unless
it. So this
someone's
explains
life is in
why he
jeopardy.
said to me, "Buckle up" before me
Yeah,
watching it, because he wasn't telling me buckle up like this is going to be the most raunchy version of the Grinch you've ever seen, which is what I thought it meant.
I would have
He didn't
loved
mean that.
that.
He meant buckle up. You're gonna hate
This is a
every
piece
second
of
of this.
dog shit. This is shit. Straight shit is what I meant.
And now I know.
Yeah, now you know. Now you know. I said we were doing
That's all
a
I got on the
work
Grinch.
meeting. Yeah, we were doing a work meeting the other day, and there was a break that I thought they turned off the mics and cameras for and stuff for it, but they didn't, and it was still recording and stuff. And
Oh
I was
no.
talking. No, it wasn't anything bad. But I was talking to my boss's boss, and because we had a 15-minute break, and I said that I watched the Grinch musical last night, and it was maybe the one of the 5 worst things I have ever watched in my life. And so that is now documented in multiple places and now on here.
Now in
So
multiple
it
places,
just
yes.
straight up, it was rough. It was
Yeah.
rough, in my opinion.
And not
But
in the
kids would
and
love
not
it.
in
I think
the
kids would really like it. I think kids would like the costumes, the set, the music
it
is
was
simple
cute
enough.
for my
Like there's enough going on
5-year-old,
that's
4-year-old.
fun for kids to watch.
I also thought the choreography was very
Yeah.
on point for the Seuss style
Yeah.
musical. I think the Who's were cute in a very annoying sort of way, which the Who's are always annoying, so that's part of the thing.
Word.
But do they did they make the right choice in what's his name Morrison being Grinch? I'm not sure. I
I don't think
think
so.
I think there was a lot lacking there, and I won't say it's the worst thing I've ever seen because I've seen. I think I did not like other things. Oh,
Right.
just lost an earbud. I I think there were other things that I hated more, but I was not a big fan of this one. Um,
Yeah.
and that's all I got to say about that. I think
He had I had a note when his heart grew 3 sizes. He's doing like an evil laugh, and then he did a fourth wall break where he talks about "Don't make my butt look too big" or something like that. I'm like,
yeah, just don't make my
which
butt
I
any
think
bigger.
that may have been a line from the Jim Carrey one. For some reason, I was thinking there was something about him talking about his butt being big in the Jim Carrey one, but maybe not.
He makes a joke about it, not at that point in the movie, but in a different movie when
Okay.
he's putting on different outfits, trying to decide what to wear when he goes down to
Okay.
Whoville. He's like, "Does this make
What
me
will
look
I
fat?"
wear?
Yeah, "Does this make me look fat?"
Okay.
And which also this guy stole that line too. He says, "Does this make me look
Yeah.
fat?" It's the same exact thing, but I kept waiting for him. It was like I was watching the Jim Carrey version, and I kept waiting for him to make the same jokes as Jim Carrey, and sometimes he did, and sometimes he didn't, which made
but
it even more awkward for me.
poorly.
Because then I was like, there you if you're gonna steal it, but you didn't even
Yeah.
steal it. You just fucking ripped it off and did it
Get
badly.
the funny parts. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Anyway, I whatever.
Anyway,
Maybe some people
I
will
think
like it, and I go for it. If you like it,
good for
kudos to
you.
you.
If you like it,
I
kudos.
liked certain
Kudos.
aspects
I
of
was
it, but
not.
I did not like it overall. No,
I liked the
and I love
set,
the
and that was
Grinch.
about it.
I love the Grinch. I love the story of the Grinch. I will watch the
I am
animated
the
version to this
Grinch.
day, even when I don't have my kid around. I'll still watch that shit because I love
The
it, and I love the
original
Jim Carrey
animated
version.
or the one with
Yes.
Benedict
No,
Cumberbatch?
no. I don't like that shit. No, that one's terrible.
I liked
I don't
that
watch
one
that one.
actually.
No, I didn't
I
like it.
liked it. I
No,
thought it
no,
was
no,
fun.
no,
I liked it better than the Jim Carrey one,
See, I
personally.
agree. I disagree with that. I think the opposite. The Jim Carrey one is much
I know
better.
you're a Jim Carrey fan.
I am a big
Jim
Jim Carrey
Carrey
fan.
version of the Grinch fan.
I am. I am a big fan.
Mhm.
But yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I think that's about it for the Grinch.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were
Let's
going
do
to
a
talk about
palate
this
cleanser.
other. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a VHS Christmas Carol, which is
Hmm.
as I mentioned and you brought to my attention, is by StarKid. Was produced, created, acted by StarKid, and
Yes. Yes.
StarKid
And
did the
yes.
same. They also they've done a lot of stuff.
They
Come to
have
find
so
out,
much
but
stuff.
we've done one other of their musicals. If you saw our episode on Twisted, the something something of a royal vizier, what is it?
Yeah. It's
the it's
twisted.
the
The
something
untold story of
story,
a royal
untold
vizier.
story.
Vizier.
Yes, which is a funny ass, hilarious, raunchy, inappropriate for children
So good.
version of Aladdin. When
Hmm.
you said Star Kid and you said Christmas Carol, my mind went immediately to
I
Twisted,
know.
and I thought this is going to be a raunchy ass, inappropriate for children version of the Christmas Carol. It is not that. It's
No.
actually very clean. It's very family
Very
friendly.
wholesome.
I thought it
Yeah.
was definitely a family show, and
I don't
it
think
is
there's any like adult
exactly the
humor
Christmas
really.
Carol,
Yeah.
except that they made it into an '80s style Christmas Carol. So
Hmm.
there's '80s costumes. There's some '80s kind of
Got some
lingo, a
synth.
little bit.
Yeah.
There's some cool like effects that they put on the screen that look like Tron in like some '80s music videos.
Like the Windows Media Player. At least, like that's what it made me think of when I was growing
Yes,
up. There's the Windows Media Player that would do
with
those
the
like
light that like
dynamic things with the
the
different.
moving like
Yeah, that's what it made
and
me think of.
the music too is like
Hmm.
choo, choo, choo.
Yeah, very synth, techno heavy 80s. Like
Yes,
it seemed like 80s electronic music. Yeah.
it was. I think they did a good job with the music being '80s and the lights and the effects on stage were being '80s and some of the
Hmm.
costumes. Not all of the costumes I think were
Yeah.
very like '80s. They weren't like heavily '80s. Some of them were heavily '80s. Some of them not so much. But it
Right.
was very clean. It was exactly
It
the story of A
was.
Christmas Carol. They did not venture out of the story at all. They literally retold the
No.
story, but did it in
Yep.
an '80s style. And so it's funny, but it's as funny as any Christmas Carol will be if you put '80s music
It's
to it.
yes. It's nowhere
It's
near the
touching.
level
It's
of Twisted.
heartfelt. No, yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
not. But it's not intended to be. I think it's not intended to be
No.
like it's not a
It's not a
satire.
parody.
It's right. It's
It's
not a
yeah.
parody. Thank you.
It's a retelling and like a unique retelling of the story that everyone knows so well about Christmas, past, present, and future, visiting Scrooge. Scrooge is played by the same guy who played Jafar in Twisted, Dylan Saunders. So it is the same guy there. But I felt like he didn't really have much of a chance to shine in
Yeah.
this. Like I felt like he had very little to do. Partially, it's a
He,
shorter production. It's like a 45-minute production, like we said
yeah.
in the intro. I think it's on YouTube, and it's just a retelling of A Christmas Carol. Um, I don't
He
know
was
if
the
there's
main
really
character,
any
but he
spoken
was
lines.
no, there weren't, and I was waiting
Say
for and
is
maybe like a spoken line within a song happened, but no like
right.
actual speaking or dialogue or anything. It's just straight music throughout. I
Yep.
felt for him too. By the end of it, he looked like he was tired because he's on stage the whole time and singing
Yeah.
pretty much the whole time. Like you said,
Yep.
he's the main character. He's Ebenezer Scrooge, but
Hmm.
he's secondary in all the music. He's responding more than he's actually
Yeah.
telling any of the story.
Right.
But he felt I felt exhausted for him. He seemed like he was exhausted by the end of it. Um, there were some highlights for me. I think some of the characters were really
Hmm.
great. Some of them stood out. Some of them were definitely more like full on 80s characters, and some
Oh
of them were
yeah.
just kind of like there. Like I think the ghosts, the first two ghosts, the past and present ghosts, were very heavily 80s out. The
Especially
past
past.
one is like in the 80s workout
Yep.
leotard with the tights and the leg warmers, and she's doing the like 80s workout while she's doing his we're taking you through the past. It was
Yeah.
odd for me because it's not a funny story that they're
No.
telling. The past takes him to places that are actually very sad and very like emotional
Hmm.
for him. She's like doing like warm-ups on the side while taking
I
it was difficult for me to like connect in that moment. Although I liked her outfit, and if it came in hot pink and lime green, I would have worn it all day long. um it was a little bit difficult for me to find my mental closure in that moment because it's a sad story
I didn't like that.
and she wasn't
That was my
funny.
least
It was
favorite
weird.
song and performance of it, the Christmas
Yeah,
past one.
me too.
I'm the ghost of Christmas past. That's
Christmas
how it goes.
past.
This album is on Spotify and Apple Music, fun fact. In case you wanted to listen to it. For me though, none of these songs were really like one
No.
specifically stood out. My favorite, I had two that I'm like, oh, I actually kind of dig this. And it was the Three Spirits one, which I think is the second one.
Yeah.
Where it's
Is that the Jacob
Marley's
Marley one?
ghost
Yeah.
singing. Yep. Which Marley was played by the someone else who was from Twisted. Most of these people,
I
StarKid
recognized her,
production,
yeah.
most of them you would recognize from Twisted or other StarKid productions. And I like the song Priceless that Bob Cratchit and the Cratchits sang. I
That was
liked
cute.
that one. That was probably my favorite one. And
That
then
was
the
cute,
Three
yeah.
Spirits one was
I think it was
pretty
cute
good.
because of like the story too. It was less
Right.
about the song. It was more about like the acting and the story. And I did like in the opening number, I did like his moments where he's like, bah humbug. I thought that was
Yeah.
catchy. It was catchy. I didn't dislike it. I thought the
Right.
Christmas Electricity I could do without. Like that song made me like
Christmas
kind of just,
electricity.
but I liked the
I
guy dancing up there doing the 80s
yeah.
dancing. I thought that was
I
great. And his costume was awesome. But I didn't like the
do
song.
do you think it was intentional trying to show some stereotype and prejudice that Scrooge asked the one African American ghost, the ghost of Christmas present? He's like, "Do you know my nephew, Fred, whatever his name was, who is also African American?" I'm like, I think that's racist if you ask the African American person. It was like, "Oh, you
I
must know
mean,
this person." I think
he
I
he set it
think
up. I think that
he
they
did set it up.
he set it up though
Um,
because he was like, "Hey, we're going to Fred's house. We're going to your
he
nephew's
did.
house," and then he's like, "You know Fred?" Like I think it was more that, but I can see why you would think like, "Well, you're black. You must know the other black guy in this
I
show."
mean, it would fit for the 80s that
It
they're like,
would.
"Hey, you must know them."
I just saw him
But
wearing those glasses, and I was like, "Please don't fall off the stage. Please don't fall off the
and the
stage," because
wig.
he can't.
The
He
wig.
can't see through those motherfuckers. They're like this, you know.
Uh-uh.
How is he dancing all around the stage? Here, 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 going up the catwalk and back. And I was like, this
Mhm.
motherfucker's gonna fall on somebody's table and crash. The wig was really bad. The dancing
The
was
other one
good,
I like.
but that song
Yeah.
I could do without.
The other one I liked was This Scrooge. That the girl, I think
Oh
that was in between
yeah,
the past, that was the girl that had been in love with Scrooge or Scrooge had been in love with. That song I
that
really
was
liked, and seeing the
heartbreaking.
turn of, because they had another actor playing young Scrooge, and so how he played that turn and then how the old Scrooge played it too, I thought was really well.
I
really
did.
well done and produced and
Yeah.
acted, and everything was really good in that number. I really liked that.
For me, she was the best singer in the show. The one that played
Yeah.
Belle was the one that really, her voice was the best one. And she sang that. And I was like, oh, I'm feeling like moved by this. I didn't expect
Yeah.
that an 80s style Christmas Carol was going to make me feel emotions. But it did. It actually did in a not, it was cheesy, but it not in a way that felt forced or like a cringy. It was like, oh, I see what you're doing. Okay.
Hmm.
And I felt the feels that you feel when you watch Christmas Carol. If you know the story, there's a lot of emotional moments in that story. It's not like
God
it's an emotional
bless us,
story.
everyone.
Okay, Tiny Tim was funny. He was like, I don't feel
Titan was
very
funny in
well.
this.
I don't
Uh
feel
huh.
very well. I was
Uh
like,
huh.
oh, but I didn't really. There wasn't anything in there that made me go like, whoa, you know. It
Yeah.
was a very small production, very small cast, and a very small audience too, where they were performing it. This was not like a giant
Clearly
stage where you
during
have
COVID
hundreds
too,
of
because
people.
everyone's
Yeah,
wearing masks.
everyone's wearing masks, but they're also sitting 2 feet away from each other. Like, wow, you
Yeah.
guys are really
At
fucking
the
great at
table.
this.
Yeah.
Thanks for spreading it around, assholes.
That's right.
But there were some moments that I was like, you guys didn't plan this out very well because there's a catwalk in the middle of the stage that they used
Yep.
throughout that they needed to use to like show dimension to the stage, and they would come up the middle of the stage and the catwalk, and there's a camera there, and then they would they would go to this camera view, which is supposed to be the
Yeah.
middle of the stage where you can see everything, and there's somebody blocking it because they're right there,
Yeah.
so you can't see what's happening. Sorry, Christmas tree. You can't see what's happening on the rest of the stage. So you got a lot of like side shots. So you can only see
Yeah.
this corner of the stage or this corner or this
Yeah.
view over here. Instead of using that center catwalk where you couldn't, there were moments where you just couldn't see everything happening. And I felt like
Yeah.
that it's because of a
That's
small
fair.
venue, a small stage. It was very awkward at
Yeah.
times the way it was shot, but
I
you
agree.
work with what you got. And I
Yeah.
think the singers are way better than deserving of that tiny audience. You know what I mean? Like they
Yeah.
should be in a much bigger setting with a much bigger
That's true.
audience, and I don't think that the audience really appreciated them. I kept waiting for them to like clap hard and like, oh yeah, and no, they were
Yeah.
not. They were kind of bleh.
Yeah, I'm curious if something like that, if there may be where it's not like a full Broadway recording production, where they're like,
Yeah,
it's a little more low budget. If they're like, hey, make
it
as
felt it.
little
Yeah,
noise as possible so we don't have to worry about the audio
editing.
filtering or things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
I can see that
I,
being. Yeah,
yeah, I don't really have any other notes here. I felt like this is a fun, like I would watch this again. It's not like going to the top of my rewatch list, but I thought it was well done. I thought the songs were interesting and catchy enough. The talent was interesting enough. It's just like if I
yeah,
have to watch a version of A Christmas Carol, I'm probably going to do Spirited, and then this would probably be my 1 and 2
yeah,
versus the other ones,
yeah.
because they're musicals, and I think yeah,
I went back and watched the Christmas Carol that's actually from the 80s that was shot
yeah,
and recorded and put out during the 80s. It is not 80s themed, it is just from the
yeah,
80s. And it's the one I
right.
think that's like the standard that everybody kind of goes to. It's good. Um but this
I
is
don't think I've
definitely
ever seen
more
it.
entertaining. Oh, you should watch it. I mean, you're getting what you get. It's very serious.
Yeah,
It's very like, you know,
yeah,
it is the story of the Christmas Carol. It's nothing like special, but it I think it's the standard that everybody kind of goes by now as it being the real story. Um, but what was I going to say? Oh, yet again, I went into this assuming it was not family friendly and that I should be shielding my child from it, and ended up it
this
being a
one
show that I
would have
could
been fine.
definitely let my son watch.
Yeah,
So we did 2 shows this month that I was like, I can't
hmm.
let my child watch this,
I feel like
but he could have watched both of them.
that's true. That's true.
And that's kind of all
Um,
I had to say about that. It is what it
yeah,
is. You go into it just go into it if you haven't seen it. Go into it knowing you're going to get the Christmas Carol story, the real story. It's not a
Yeah.
parody, and it is, but it is very well acted. It is very well sung. It is very well put together for a low budget, low production, smaller production. Did you know that the Ghost of Christmas Past actually produced it? The girl that sings
No.
is the Ghost of Christmas
I
Past. The
mean,
woman,
I think I may have caught that in the credits, but it didn't
she
like
and
jump out.
Dylan
Yeah.
Saunders, the one that played
Play Scrooge.
Ebenezer, they're the
Yeah.
producers of it. So
Nice.
maybe that's why she wanted that part, which wasn't
Could be.
probably the best for her.
Yeah. I I really like StarKid and what they do. I thought this was really well done, but it's not, like I said, it's not one I'm gonna revisit. Like Twisted, I could watch that shit almost monthly. Like like that is a lot of fun. And some of their other
It
stuff
is.
um is really good too. Like their original stuff is really good. I when we were talking about it for November, I'm like, there's no Thanksgiving musicals. There is. StarKid has one. It's called Black Friday. Um and I've watched
Oh,
it
I
before
like
and
it
I had
already.
forgotten about it. Yeah, it's like a almost like a slasher musical. It's really interesting. And
I
then they
need
have
to watch
their
this.
new one out that's Nerdy Prudes Must Die. That's
Saw
fun.
that
They've
pop
got
up
these
on
ones
my
that are like,
list.
yeah, that take place in this town of Hatchetfield. And so Black Friday takes place there. Nerdy Prudes Must Die takes place in this fictional town, and there's some interconnectivity through there. And then I think they have one called The Guy Who Doesn't Like Musicals. That one also takes place in the same town too. So I think we'll probably end up doing more Starfield. Not Starfield. Starfield is the Xbox game from Bethesda. StarKid reviews on here. So they've got lots, and I think it makes things interesting. It mixes it up from us doing the generally more produced ones and what we usually do, the high budget ones. I like doing some of these fun ones that that are accessible on YouTube though too. So like
Yeah.
anyone, you can go out there and watch them, as long as you can deal with some ads every once in a while. I pay for YouTube Premium because I don't have the patience, and when I watch stuff, it's usually on YouTube with podcasts or whatever else. Um, but I didn't have any other notes really. I thought it was good. It like it's quick, it's short, it's 45 minutes long. It's not even an hour. You throw it on in the
Yeah.
background. The songs are interesting enough. Good beat, pretty well produced for what it is, and I support StarKid. I did their last they did like a not Kickstarter, but something else like that backing for some of their projects for the Nerdy Prudes Must Die. So we got like early access to that for a digital ticket and some other stuff. But I think they're a cool company. I like what they do. Um, support their work, and so I thought this was fun for something new and a different take on a classic story that everyone knows and that has been retold a million times. So
Agreed.
yeah,
That's
that's
it.
all I got. Um,
That's all for our episode. That's all, folks. That's all, folks.
Beep. Yep.
Thank you. That was much better
Um,
than mine.
so we're releasing this prior to Christmas. Hope all of you, thank you all for this. Will be almost, we'll do one more mini episode for the end of the year, probably, unless we skip it just because of craziness.
Christmas.
But thank you, everyone who, whether you're new to the podcast in 2023 and listened, whether you've been listening since we started, thank you all. We appreciate you all. We hope you have Merry Christmas, Happy
Merry
Holidays, whatever
Christmas.
you celebrate. If you don't celebrate anything, just hope you're having a great month, a great year. Hope you stick with us for the upcoming years. We're only, we can only go up from here, right? We're not going to get worse as things go. So it'll only get
And
better.
look,
We'll get
we're just
things
having
down
fun.
to a science. Yeah, we're having fun. Hopefully, you guys are having fun too. So, like I said, drop comments, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Give us feedback. Give us ideas for things you want to see, whether it's musicals to review, different segments you'd like to see. If you want us to do or set list, pick a best of 5 things or favorite of 3 things, whatever. Give us suggestions. Throw them to us. We'll hear them. We'll throw them on here, and if we use them, we'll give you a shout out. So, thank you all. Have a great rest of your 2023. Close out well. Rayleigh and I, don't forget,
Happy
go down
holidays.
once more. Happy holidays.
Peace.
Later. I won't leave that
We're gonna
in.
end up with another blooper at the end where it's just Rayleigh. Just
I blurred
after every
it, though.
episode.
I put that GIF over it.
Yes,
So
you did.
the perverts
You did.
that may have been listening, like, it would be so funny to me if someone was listening to the audio and then they went to the YouTube and they're like, "Ah, son of a bitch." That would have been funny as shit.
You tricked me again. Yes, I know. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.